I'm Ava. I'm 17, almost 18, and I wish this was just some melodramatic rant you'd laugh off. But no, this is my real life, and it's unraveling faster than I can process. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to become a cardiologist. It sounds clinical, I know, but there's something about fixing what's broken that speaks to me. Maybe it's because I've spent most of my life trying to mend the cracks in my family. Spoiler alert, I failed. My grandparents were the only ones who took my dream seriously. My grandpa Arthur, he wasn't a doctor or even a high school grad, but he was the most brilliant man I've ever known. When I was 10, I told him I wanted to be a heart doctor. He didn't laugh. He didn't tell me to pick something easier. Instead, he opened a savings account in my name. Every birthday, every holiday, even when he sold his old tools at the flea market, he'd stash money in that account. By the time I turned 16, he told me it was over $40,000. So you don't have to worry, kiddo. Just study. Become someone who saves lives. I believed him. I believed in that future. Then he died. I didn't just lose my biggest supporter. I lost the one person who saw me, really saw me. At the funeral, while everyone else cried for their loss, I cried for what I knew I was about to face. My parents, Tamara and Greg, two people who were somehow legally responsible for me, but never emotionally equipped to be. They were always more obsessed with appearances than reality. Mom is the kind who'd max out a credit card for Instagram-worthy Christmas photos. Dad, a man-child who still brags about his high school football glory days as if they happened last week. And then there's my younger sister, Mia, the princess, the golden child. She's 15, going on TikTok royalty. I swear if she dropped out of school to sell lip gloss online, my parents would throw her a party. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't subtle, it was blinding. I got hand-me-downs. She got designer sneakers. I cooked dinner when Mom had migraines. Mia got takeout and praise for setting the table, but I always had Grandpa. And that account, that one thing that was mine, or so I thought. A few weeks ago, I started prepping for college applications. I'd landed an academic scholarship that would cover most of my tuition, but I still needed funds for books, dorm supplies, and, surviving. I logged into the savings account Grandpa had set up. I hadn't touched it in years. Balance $9. I stared at the screen for 10 straight minutes. My vision blurred. I checked again. Refreshed. Nothing changed. I felt my stomach drop cold and heavy. The account should have had at least $45,000. Grandpa was meticulous. He showed me statements. He even joked about hiding the passwords from my dad because Greg's got champagne taste on a beer budget. That night, I cornered my parents. Calmly at first. Do you know what happened to the college fund Grandpa left me? Mom blinked. What fund? Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. I pressed. I demanded. That's when it came out. They used the money. All of it. Well, almost. To help Mia, Mom said, arms crossed, like she was the victim here. She needed something special. She's had a hard year. I blinked. So you bought her a car? It was her sweet 16 dad added, like that somehow justified anything. She doesn't even have her license. She'll need one soon. Besides, you have a scholarship. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. You stole my future, I whispered. You're being dramatic, Mom replied, rolling her eyes. Mia's going through a lot at school. She deserves some happiness. What about me? Did I not deserve security? A shot at med school without drowning in debt? They tried to flip it, called me selfish, ungrateful, said I was lucky to have a scholarship and I should be happy for my sister. Happy, are you serious? That money was Grandpa's last gift to me, his legacy. And they gutted it for a car, for clout. That night I cried myself to sleep. Not just because of the betrayal, but because I knew what came next. I had to fight. I did my research, talked to a legal aid office, pulled every old bank statement Grandpa had mailed me, and I made a list. Because if they thought I'd just roll over and thank them for the scraps they left me, they clearly didn't know who they raised. It's strange how quickly love can turn into resentment. One minute, you're picturing your parents clapping at your college graduation. The next, you're cataloging every time they failed you like you're building a legal case. Because, well, you kind of are. After that night, I stopped speaking to them. Completely. I moved like a ghost through the house. I went to school, I came home, I locked my door. And when I ate, I did it late after they'd gone to bed. I didn't have the energy for confrontation. Not yet. I needed to plan first. I dug through Grandpa's old documents, found bank statements, letters, screenshots of the fund's growth year after year. I organized everything into folders. Physical copies, digital backups. If my parents wanted to play dumb, I was going to make it real hard for them to keep pretending. Then I visited a friend's older sister, Jules, who's studying pre-law. She walked me through what I could do, what kind of case I might have. Technically, if the account was in your name and they accessed it without permission, it could be fraud, she said, scanning the papers. Even if they're your legal guardians, there are limits. That night, I wrote out my ultimatum. I gave them 1 week to pay back what they took. Every cent. Or I'd file. I printed the letter, folded it, and slid it under their bedroom door. The next morning, Dad was waiting in the kitchen. Coffee in one hand, my letter in the other. He looked like he hadn't slept. "You'd really go that far, Ava." "You already did," I said. "I'm just responding." Mom refused to come out of the bedroom. Mia pretended nothing happened, blasting music and filming some dumb lipstick tutorial in her room like we weren't one legal threat away from war. That week was tense, like walking on broken glass in a room filled with gasoline. I kept thinking about Grandpa, what he'd say. Probably something like, "They made their bed, sweetheart. Don't set yourself on fire to keep people warm." By day 5, Dad caved. "We'll cancel the car order," he said quietly. The dealership said we're still within the refund window. I stared at him and the rest of the money. He sighed, rubbing his eyes. "We'll find a way. Just don't take this public. It'll ruin us." I wanted to laugh. Ruin them. They stole my future, and now they were worried about embarrassment, but I didn't say that. I just nodded and went back to my room. 2 days later, the funds hit the account. Every cent returned. But that didn't fix everything. Because by then, Mia had launched her own personal war. She started posting cryptic messages on social media. Stuff like jealousy is ugly and some people just can't be happy for you. She never said my name, but everyone at school knew. Comments started piling in, her little groupies stirring drama, messaging me with snake emojis like we were in some high school version of Mean Girls. I ignored it, mostly, until one of Mia's friends cornered me in the hallway. "Did you really sue your parents over a stupid college fund?" I stopped, turned. "Did your parents ever teach you what boundaries are?" That shut her up. But it didn't stop the rumors, or the looks, or the teachers pulling me aside, trying to be supportive while awkwardly pretending they weren't gossiping too. And then came the worst part, the family meeting. Yep, they called one. "We need to talk," Mom said, finally breaking her silence. Her tone was tight, like every word cost her. "All of us. Now." I didn't want to go. I knew nothing good was coming, but I went anyway. We sat in the living room, me on one couch, them on the other, like we were two rival nations about to negotiate a ceasefire. "We understand you're upset," Dad began. "But your sister needs support too." Mia rolled her eyes, arms folded, like she was being forced to endure some great injustice. "It was just a car. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I didn't respond. I looked at Mom. "We've decided," she said, clearing her throat, "that it's only fair to divide the savings between you and Mia, half for each, so she can still get a car and you still have some for school." It was so quiet after that you could hear the clock ticking. I blinked slowly. "You want me to give her $22,000 from a fund Grandpa left for my education?" "It's called being fair," Mia snapped. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind that escapes when something is so absurd your brain short-circuits. "No, it's called theft, again." Mom stood up, face flushed. "Don't be dramatic, Ava. This is about family. We support each other." "You mean I support her?" I said, voice calm, steady. "That's the real family motto, right?" "That's when Dad dropped the bomb. If you refuse, you can find somewhere else to live." I stood up too, looked each of them in the eye. "Fine." Then I turned and walked out. I packed that night. Just essentials. Clothes, books, documents. I texted Jules and asked if I could crash on her couch for a while. She said yes without hesitation. I didn't even say goodbye. I thought walking out would feel like freedom, like shedding a skin that never fit me. Instead, it felt like mourning. Not because I missed them, God, no. But because a tiny piece of me had always hoped they'd choose me. Just once. And they didn't. They never did. Jules picked me up that night with a grocery bag full of snacks and a pillow from her spare closet. "You're not a burden," she said, before I could even get the words out. "You're a guest. There's a difference." I could have cried right there in her passenger seat. Instead, I just nodded and looked out the window. We didn't talk much that drive. Sometimes silence feels safer than anything else. Her apartment wasn't fancy, but it felt like safety. It smelled like cinnamon and laundry detergent. There was a potted plant in the window with a name tag that said Steve. And for the first time in weeks, I exhaled without feeling like it was going to cost me something. I settled in quickly. I slept on the futon and helped cook and clean. I applied for part-time jobs in between school and studied harder than ever. The college application deadline was close, and I wasn't going to let my family's mess cost me the future Grandpa wanted for me. But the peace didn't last. A few days in, I got a message from an unknown number. It was my mom. "We can't believe you're doing this. Family doesn't turn its back. Mia's devastated. Hope you're happy." No apology, no recognition of what they did. Just guilt blame and emotional blackmail wrapped up in a passive-aggressive text. I blocked the number. A few hours later, a burner account on Instagram started posting about me. Some people will steal from their own family and still play the victim. Photos of me at family events, captioned with vague jabs. It didn't take a detective to know it was Mia. She'd gone full petty high school villain, and her audience loved the drama. That's when I realized they weren't going to stop. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me humiliated, dismissed, erased. I'd taken my money and my silence, and they still weren't satisfied. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I went to the police. I showed them the texts, the account withdrawals, the threats. I explained everything: how the account was in my name, how they accessed it without consent, how they tried to extort half back under the threat of homelessness. The officer listened, actually listened, and told me I had grounds for a protective order. I filed it that day. It wasn't just about keeping them away. It was about drawing a line they couldn't cross anymore. That night, Jules helped me fill out the legal paperwork for full financial control over the account. We locked everything down with new passwords and two-factor authentication. I filed a fraud report with the bank and opened a new account under my name only. And when I got her home, I cried in the shower until the water ran cold. Not because I was sad, because it was over. Not the fight, but the waiting, the hoping, the desperate need for someone to finally care. I didn't need that anymore. I had proof. I had protection. I had a future. News spread fast, like it always does in small communities and family gossip chains. My great-uncle Grandpa Arthur's brother called me the next day. I hadn't spoken to him in years. Not because we weren't close, but because my parents always kept him at a distance. Said he was weird and too nosy. Funny how people always paint the honest ones as troublemakers. "I heard what they did," he said. His voice was rough, the kind that sounded like he smoked too many cigars and told too many truths. "Your grandfather would be ashamed of them. Proud of you, though. Want you to know that." I didn't say much. Just thank you over and over again, like it was the first time someone meant it. He invited me to stay, said he had a spare bedroom, said the fridge was full and the house was quiet. Jules hugged me when I told her, and the next day I moved again. The great-uncle's place was different. Slower, warmer, no drama, just thick rugs, framed photos, and the occasional smell of chili simmering on the stove. We didn't talk much at first. He gave me space, let me study, sleep, breathe. But on the fourth night, he knocked on my door with a thick envelope in his hand. "Your grandpa left this with me," he said. "Told me to give it to you if anything ever went sideways." Inside were photocopies of every deposit slip. Letters, a note in Grandpa's handwriting for Ava. No one else. "Protect your future kiddo. You'll do great things." I held that note like it was a life raft, because in a lot of ways it was. The next weekend, we had a family meeting. Not the toxic kind, the real kind. A few cousins, my granduncle, an aunt I hadn't seen since I was 12. He told them everything. Showed the documents, spelled it out. How my parents had stolen, lied, manipulated. How they tried to gut my future to appease their golden child's entitlement. And then he said something that made the air in the room shift. If they don't return every penny with interest, they're out of the will. Permanently. The silence was loud, the kind that vibrated in your chest. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The truth was already on the table, and it was heavy enough. My dad called 2 hours later. It was all a misunderstanding, he said. We just wanted to help both our daughters. Then maybe you should have raised both of us, I said, and hung up. 3 days later, the money came through. Full repayment, plus 5% interest. Like a corporate apology wrapped in fake sincerity. Mia didn't text me, but I heard through the grapevine she was telling everyone I'd ruined her life. That I was jealous. That she'd never forgive me. Honestly, that's fine. Forgiveness isn't a currency I'm trading anymore, because I'm done buying peace with silence. After the money landed back in my account, I thought the worst was finally behind me. I thought that maybe, just maybe, the universe was done throwing curveballs and I could get back to planning my future like a normal kid. I should have known better. Peace doesn't last long in families like mine. A week after the repayment, a message popped up on my phone from a blocked number. Hope the blood money makes you happy. You've destroyed this family. No name. But it didn't have to. My mom's guilt always came disguised as passive aggression. I ignored it. I'd learned by then that some people only apologize when they need something. And sure enough, 2 days later, my parents asked my great-uncle for a meeting. He hesitated, but agreed. Said it was better to let them speak and end the drama once and for all. I didn't want to go. I didn't trust them. But I went anyway because I needed to hear it from their mouths. I needed to know if they were really sorry or just afraid of losing more. They showed up dressed like they were going to church, clean, rehearsed, and overly polite. Mia didn't come. Probably too busy sulking about her car being taken back. Mom clutched her purse like it held the last pieces of her dignity. Dad sat stiff eyes darting everywhere except at me. We came to make things right, he said too fast. Too practiced. We've been thinking about everything that's happened, Mom added. We realized mistakes were made. Mistakes, that word again. Like they'd just misplaced a receipt, not stolen my future. My great-uncle crossed his arms. You're not here to talk about feelings, he said. Get to the point. They exchanged a look. That's when the truth dropped. They were broke. The money they used to repay me loans, high interest, desperation disguised as damage control. The threat of being cut from the will had shaken them more than anything I'd done. Now, with debt piling up and no backup plan, they wanted help. From me. Or rather, from my great-uncle through me. They wanted to move in. I didn't even laugh. I just blinked slow and cold. You kicked me out. You threatened me. You tried to steal from me twice. And now you want me to vouch for you. We're still your parents, Mom snapped. And you're still accountable for what you did, I said. You didn't just burn the bridge. You threw gasoline on it and danced in the flames. Dad tried to sound reasonable. We're family. You're supposed to help family. You mean like how you helped me, I asked, by stealing what was mine and blaming me when I fought back? The room was quiet. Even my great-uncle didn't speak. He just watched, studied them. You want a place to stay? I continued. You had one. You chose greed over your own daughter's future. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. They didn't like that. Mom stood, grabbed her bag, and muttered something about me being cruel. Dad followed slower, glancing at me once like he wanted to say something but didn't. That silence was the loudest thing he'd ever said. They left without another word. And I didn't stop them. I didn't chase them. I didn't cry. Because some endings are overdue. And not every door needs to be left open. The fallout didn't stop there. A few days later, the story started trickling onto social media. Not the whole story, just their version. Posts from relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly flooded timelines. Can't believe some kids think they're owed everything. No respect for sacrifice. Or imagine suing your parents for trying to help. Mia added fuel too. Subtweets, dramatic stories, pictures of her old car with captions like RIP to the best Sweet 16 gift ever. Her followers ate it up. Sympathy without context, drama without truth. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because behind the scenes, something better was happening. Relatives started reaching out quietly at first. A cousin I hadn't seen in years messaged me late one night. "Is it true?" About the college fund, I told her everything. Sent screenshots, shared the documents, the protective order, the messages. One by one, people started waking up. Some apologized, some were shocked. A few still blamed me, clinging to the idea that parents can do no wrong. But others saw it clearly now. They started unfollowing Mia, started blocking my parents, started defending me in the comments. The tide turned slowly, but it turned. Then something I never expected happened. One of my mom's cousins, a lawyer, called me. She said what they'd done wasn't just morally wrong, it was legally shaky. She offered help if I ever wanted to push for more compensation for emotional damages, public correction of the lies, even a restraining clause tied to future inheritance negotiations. I thanked her, but said I wasn't ready. Not because I didn't want justice, but because sometimes peace is more powerful than punishment. I didn't need to win louder. I just needed to win longer. Life started settling. College acceptance letters rolled in. I picked the one Grandpa always talked about, his dream school, the one he'd hoped I'd reach even if he never did. My great-uncle smiled when I told him, said he'd cover the rest of what the scholarship didn't. "Your grandpa wanted you to fly," he said. "We're just making sure you have wings." And that night, I sat in bed and opened the note again, the one Grandpa left in that envelope. I read the words twice, then whispered them once more to myself. "Protect your future, kiddo. You'll do great things." I believed him. Starting college felt like walking into a different world, one I had imagined so many times, but never believed I'd actually reach on my own terms. I moved into my dorm with nothing flashy. Just 2 suitcases, a laptop, and the quiet determination of someone who had already fought to be there. While other freshmen cried in parking lots and hugged teary parents, I unpacked in silence and made my bed with the kind of focus that came from knowing no one else was going to do it for me. My great-uncle helped carry my bags. He didn't say much, but before he left, he placed a small folded note on my desk. "Be proud. I already am," it read. I kept it in my drawer next to Grandpa's letter. 2 reminders that not all family fails you. Just the ones who choose to. College life was a blur of lecture halls, study groups, late-night ramen, and the awkward dance of making new friends without oversharing your trauma. I kept my past to myself at first. People assumed I was just quiet, maybe a little intense. I let them. Until one night in the common room, someone cracked a joke about spoiled rich kids suing their parents for tuition money, and I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was close. That laugh turned into a story. My story. And by the time I finished, the room was silent. Then one girl said, "Good for you." Just like that. No pity, no judgment, just respect. And I realized I didn't have to carry the shame anymore. It wasn't mine. But while I was building a new life, my old one was still unraveling behind me. My parents, still nursing their pride and debt, started pushing harder on social media. They posted vague statuses about betrayal, old family photos with me cropped out, even charity fundraisers that made it seem like they were victims of injustice instead of architects of it. And people bought it. At least some did. My inbox filled with hate messages. Strangers calling me ungrateful, fake accounts tagging me in posts like "college isn't a personality trait" and "some daughters don't deserve second chances." Mia, of course, was the loudest. Her stories were filled with hints, all bitterness wrapped in glitter. She posted throwbacks of her car with captions like, "If only love came with a refund policy." I could have fought back. Could have posted the documents, the restraining order, the bank receipts, but I didn't. Because part of growing up is choosing your battles. And I'd already won mine. I didn't need to prove it to people who'd already picked their side. Instead, I focused on what mattered: my classes, my future, my peace. I started volunteering at the campus clinic, shadowing med students, learning more about cardiology every day. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was building, slowly, steadily, brick by brick. Still, there were moments, quiet ones, where I'd open my messages hoping for something different. A real apology, a sign they'd changed. But it never came. What came instead was a letter. A real one, handwritten, from my mom. It arrived just before winter break. No return address. Inside a folded sheet of paper and nothing else. "You got what you wanted. We lost everything. I hope it was worth it." That was it. No hello, no signature. Just those bitter words like venom disguised as closure. I didn't respond. I tore it in half and dropped it into the recycling bin without flinching. Because if she still thought this was about winning, she hadn't learned a thing. When break came, I didn't go home. My great uncle invited me to stay with him, and I did. We decorated the tree together, watched old movies, made hot cocoa the way Grandpa used to, too much whipped cream, not enough patience. And on Christmas morning, he handed me a small box. Inside was a necklace. Simple silver with a tiny heart-shaped charm engraved with one word: forward. I didn't cry, but I felt it in my bones. That quiet kind of joy that comes when you realize you're exactly where you're meant to be, even if the road there was brutal. As the months passed, things shifted. A few distant relatives reached out. One aunt offered an apology, another asked to visit. Slowly, carefully, people started peeling away from my parents' narrative. Some admitted they'd believed the lies until they saw the silence that followed. My parents had burned so many bridges trying to hurt me that they'd isolated themselves. And Mia, it turned out, wasn't handling it well. I found out through a friend of a friend that she'd dropped out of school, that the replacement car never came, that she'd started blaming everyone but herself. Some people grow from consequences. Others just grow bitter. She chose bitterness. Me, I chose everything else. I took summer classes, applied for internships, volunteered at a community health center. Every day I worked toward the future I wanted, not the one they tried to erase. And the more I built, the less their shadows followed me. I wasn't the girl who lost everything anymore. I was the woman who fought for it, who reclaimed it, who proved that sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or suing, it's simply becoming everything they said you'd never be. And I still wear that necklace. Every exam, every big decision, every time doubt creeps in, I touch that little heart and remind myself why I'm doing this. Not for them, not even for Grandpa anymore, but for me, because I survived it. I rose from it, and now I'm moving forward. Always. By the time my second year started, the noise had faded. The drama, the online smears, the side eyes from relatives who used to whisper behind screens, it all felt distant, like a storm that had passed but left everything sharper, cleaner in its wake. I'd stopped checking their pages, stopped wondering what they were saying about me. There's a strange kind of freedom in not caring anymore. It's not numbness, it's clarity. It's waking up and realizing you're not holding your breath for people who never once held space for you. My great uncle still called every Sunday. Sometimes we talked about school, sometimes just football scores or his garden. No drama, no guilt, just steady presence. He never tried to fill the hole Grandpa left, and maybe that's why his support meant even more. He showed up over and over and never once asked me to earn it. That was the difference. That was what love was supposed to look like. I kept pushing forward. My grades were strong. My resume was growing. I even landed a summer internship at a heart research institute, exactly the kind of place Grandpa would have lost his mind over. I told one of the senior doctors about him once, just briefly. He wasn't a doctor, I said, but he had the heart of one. And she smiled and told me that's what really mattered. Sometimes validation comes from the quiet places. You don't need a parade, just someone who sees you for what you are, not what they want you to be. But just when I thought the chapter had closed for good, I got one last call that shook me. My old neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, reached out through a mutual friend. She was the kind of lady who baked too much and knew everyone's business without ever being mean about it. She said my parents had sold the house, the one I grew up in. Gone. Not for profit, not for a fresh start, but because they had no choice. Legal fees, debt from the car, they refunded the loans they took to repay what they stole, they'd hit bottom. The sale wasn't part of a plan. It was survival. Hearing it felt strange. I thought I'd feel vindicated. I didn't. Not exactly. It was more complicated than that. The house wasn't just drywall and memories. It was the stage for every betrayal, yes, but also where I learned how to be resilient, where I discovered what love wasn't, where I realized silence wasn't kindness and sacrifice meant nothing if it came from the wrong place. I didn't mourn the house, but I paused, because losing it meant they'd lost everything they used to hold over me. Later that week, I got an email. No subject line, no greeting. Just a few broken sentences typed in all lowercase. We have nowhere to go. They won't help us. Please talk to your uncle. Ask him to reconsider. It was signed Mom and Dad. No apologies, no understanding. Just one last attempt to twist my name into a lifeline they no longer deserved. I didn't answer. I read it once, closed the laptop, and went for a walk. The campus was quiet that evening, golden light brushing through the trees like something sacred. I passed students laughing, someone strumming a guitar, the smell of coffee lingering in the air. And I realized I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done grieving what I never had. I was done waiting for people to become someone they clearly weren't capable of being. That was their path to walk, not mine. When I got back to my dorm, I lit a candle on my desk. One of those little rituals I picked up from my great uncle. He always said fire clears the air. That night, it felt right. I whispered a thank you to Grandpa, to the girl I used to be, to the universe for teaching me how to stand, even when everything tried to knock me down. Then I opened my journal and wrote one line: "You didn't break me. You built me." That spring, I gave a talk at a youth leadership seminar. Just 15 minutes, but enough to share my story in a way that might light someone else's way forward. I didn't mention names. I didn't bash anyone. I just told the truth about legacy, about betrayal, about fighting for the future you deserve, even when it means standing alone. Afterward, a girl came up to me, tears in her eyes. "That was my story too," she said. "I thought I was the only one." I hugged her, told her she wasn't, that she never was. That's the part no one talks about, how healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just existing freely. Laughing at dumb jokes again. Planning things 5 years ahead without fear. Sleeping through the night. Trusting your instincts. Wearing that necklace that says forward and meaning it. I graduate next year. Medical school is already on my radar. And every step I take now is mine. Not given, not borrowed, not conditional. I still keep Grandpa's letter in my drawer. Still read it on hard days. Still hear his voice in the back of my mind when things get heavy. But now I write my own words beside his. Because the life he imagined for me, I'm building it. One choice at a time. And my parents. They're ghosts now. Not in the haunting way. Just shadows that no longer darken my path. I wish them clarity, not luck, not love, just the self-awareness to sit in what they made and figure out where they lost themselves. As for me, I'm good, more than good, I'm whole. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can do, the strongest revenge, the deepest justice, is not to scream or sue or beg for someone to understand. It's to outgrow the cage they built around you. To walk out, to keep walking, and to never look back. Story 2. Accused my parents of ruining our connection by treating my sister like their golden child. I also learned that my fiancé was taking advantage of me for financial gain during a nasty family gathering. No matter how hard I try to have my dad see me as his equal, it never works. And I think she takes advantage of the fact that my sister is his golden child. Is often not a major problem. However, a few events that occurred this week were the icing on the cake. She asked if she might bring her in-laws, who will be coming the next time she visits because I'm hoping getting married next year. I said, okay, just because my parents are paying, but I knew she was really doing it for the publicity, so she would undoubtedly parade at least 4 members of her political family there. In addition, my sister lives abroad and doesn't want to go for so long until things are even more stable, so my parents are delaying any celebration of their upcoming major anniversary in November. However, she took a vacation to a neighboring nation last month. They told me they were shifting their big celebration to next year when I was out to lunch with them and my fiancé and I was at my breaking point. Of course, you will postpone, I told my father. Until she arrives, all of us should cease to exist. He said that it was inappropriate and that I was exaggerating a situation that was unrelated to me. My mother also said that they would undoubtedly have an intimate moment and that I was significant, but I don't think that's true. I got up and apologized profusely to my father. Even though your true love isn't here, your wife, not your daughter, should be the most significant lady in your life. Then I went out. I felt horrible the next day and tried to contact my mother, but she wouldn't talk to me and instead texted me to say I was upset, resentful, and in need of assistance. However, my dad in particular damaged me by wanting to give her such a prominent place in their life after she had lived overseas for around 10 years. My fiancé is concerned that they won't be able to afford the wedding anymore, and my parents blocked me. As usual, my sister tried to summon me to be the center of the world, but I didn't answer. My parents haven't gotten back to me after a few days. My sister called my fiancé to see how I was doing, then she stopped attempting to contact me. My grandmother told me I had to apologize when I went to see her today because while my parents love us both, we are different and have different things. I started to question whether I was the jerk. I still think that my sister's status as a golden child should be addressed and repaired, but I just want to have certain days where I am my parents' most valued kid. But given the way I put it, perhaps I was the jerk. First edit. It is 20:06 a.m. A lady is my fiancé. I'd want to clean out as well. My parents are lousy parents, not awful people, in my opinion. Second edit. It's been a while since this happened. My dad and my 33-year-old sister have a little club. Since she was 4 years old, she has been able to read with ease. She had a huge book collection that my parents wouldn't part with, and occasionally she would stay with one of his best friends who ran a bookshop. My dad used to take her to visit his customers in a nearby city. Despite my instructions to send them to my sister-dad's closest friend or the lady, they converse about politics, economy, and other topics virtually every day. None of those pique my curiosity. Indeed, he attempted to bring me along, but I was usually bored and instead went to my games or bought tickets to the team's stadium, but I think he prefers her. However, because my sister and my mom are so unlike, their relationship has its ups and downs. My sister's wedding 5 years ago was the final problem. Yes, she had two, one in our nation and one in her home country. My mom wanted her clothes created from a certain fabric, and my sister set a price restriction for both. She even wanted to wear the same dress for both events. After a fight, she ended up with 2 costumes, but because of the budget, she forbade me from bringing my girlfriend, who would later become my wife, since she wanted it to be private. However, about 50 individuals were present. My fiancé was informed by my mother that she would either make or purchase her own dress. I'm sure my sister had a part in persuading my parents that she and my fiancé have a great connection. My sister, who does not work in the family, has a PhD that my parents paid for. Companies at all. Acting as though she doesn't want to be compensated, she just consults seldom. My parents helped her until she found employment, and we had to go to Europe to be present each time she earned her master's and doctoral degrees. Even if they are upset, I know they must ultimately speak with me because I work for a family business. I could list many instances of their partiality for her. Nor do I despise her. All I want is for her to let me to shine on my days. Yes, the wedding would be a gift, but I should be treated the same way if they were prepared to cover the cost of 2 or more outfits and the honeymoon. Third edit. You may be pleased about this in case anyone is curious. My dad sent me a message instructing me to join a family Zoom call so I could express anything I wanted and everyone would take turns. He threatened to withdraw his money from our company if I didn't show there. I told him that I would ask my fiancé to be in too, but I had to go. My fiancé, her parents, sister, and her spouse were present. I could tell my sister was furious as soon as I connected. It was me who spoke first. I expressed all of my emotions to them, including bringing up the fact that they are handling my wedding differently and the comments made by some people regarding my parents leaving the companies to my sister. I said how terrible it was that they liked her more. Nobody said anything or interrupted me, which is extremely usual in important family conversations, even though they seem to talk to her about serious topics, and she receives a lot of praise. When they asked my fiancé if she had anything to say, she courageously said that she felt excluded from the family and that they always viewed her as a daughter and she always supports me. When it was my mother's time, she apologized for hurting my feelings, said they tried to do things I like and that they loved us both just as much. It was sad, she remarked. She still believes I need help even though I claimed everything was okay and they were unaware of how serious it was. She went on to tell my fiancé that while my sister is her only daughter, she still loves her. After that, my dad took his turn. I apologize, he said. He doesn't seem to like me. He doesn't regret loving his child, though. He said that I didn't mind the vehicles, the tickets, or even the free housing, and he feels let down. When they pass away, everything they possess will be split 50-50, he added. Additionally, I could buy him out if I didn't want my sister involved in our company. He added that even if they are unhappy with me, they will pay for my wedding since it is something they have always wanted to do for their children. Additionally, he advised my fiancé to be appreciative rather than avaricious. At that point, I was angry over my fiancé's attack and the lack of apology, but I controlled myself. Then, as I was at his brother's wedding, my bill informed me he had no idea how I felt about his family, and that he simply expected his nuclear family would attend. No hard feelings over it, he remarked. My sister came next. One thing about my sister is that she doesn't yell or swear when she's very upset. Simply said she is quite frigid and rough on the neck. When she came from university, she claimed to have sensed my withdrawal at approximately 10 or 11, and I was left out of some of the talks with my father. She stated she didn't want to worry me and that she needed to be updated on everything because she agreed to be my guardian at the age of 18 in the event that my parents passed away. She remarked that, although her work choice had nothing to do with me, she might have been a better sister and was sorry I became so bitter. She reminded me that I was given the opportunity to travel overseas, but I declined. She reminded me that we had taken vacations together and informed me that her or her husband, not my parents, had covered the costs. She stated that was news to me. Since they need to schedule the vacation around my wedding, she inquired about her in-laws' visit. She said that she didn't want my parents to foot the bill for her vacation and that she and my fiancé had only been dating for 7 months when she got married. She claimed that she doesn't want to be compensated for her consulting services because she believes it is unfair. But she promised to bill me her true hourly rate the next time because I feel so offended by it. I find it pitiful that she claimed to have been so burned out that she took a 10-hour flight from Germany to the Netherlands. She said that because my parents were trying to protect me, my grandma was the one who told her everything I said, and that she was done with me unless I started treatment. She concluded by saying that although she loves me, she doesn't like me at all. Now, although this is a clear synopsis, I have witnessed her say things like this to others, but never to me. She had no kindness in her eyes, and I nearly started crying. My parents told me that the wedding would be the last thing they gave me if I didn't try to help myself, and that they could either get me therapy or I could find it on my own. The way my sister spoke to me was what made me feel worse. I know she is serious because she has never spoken to me in this way, not even during our arguments. My eye was handed to me. I admit that I'm envious, and I'm mad at the jerk. Although my fiancé is sobbing, I believe I need to consider my options. We're from Latam too. One update. I decided to read all of the comments again since I can't sleep. Even though I am envious of my sister, the way she said to me still pains me, so I tried phoning her. I could talk to my Bill, but she wouldn't talk to me. According to him, she doesn't want to talk to me because I caused her a great deal of mental distress, and she knows that if we speak, she would say more harsh things. This helped me understand that I love my sister and that I am the issue. I still feel betrayed and have negative emotions. Although I can't claim that I have suddenly changed, my family has never spoken to me in such a way. And my sister has always stood up for me, which I assumed she did to make herself appear better. I'm starting to believe that she could genuinely love me. I'm completely perplexed. My Bill, who is also a wonderful man, advised me to simply seek assistance and wait. But I don't know where to go or what to do. He advised me to look up therapists and select one, and he would assist me in determining whether or not I wanted his assistance. He also advised me to quit assuming that my family doesn't care that they aren't flawless, even though they try their hardest. However, he also asked me how my fiancé's family is influencing our lives or the wedding. And I was at a loss for ideas. She works and lives with me, and her parents don't give her anything since they claim that my family is doing better. I told her I needed assistance since I turned into a monster, but I'm not sure where it will lead. There won't be a wedding until my family's problem is resolved. Despite her tears, she replied she understood. According to my grandma, she informed my sister since my parents had just informed her that there had been a fight without mentioning my words. In retrospect, my words are repulsive and I regret them. She said that unless my family loved me really, they wouldn't respond so aggressively. There is nothing like that in my nation, so I asked my parents if I may take some mental days off. It sounds like a good thing, he remarked, reminding me that they love me and only want me to be happy, not simply act that way. The books are also in her bedroom at my parents' house in her walk-in closet. My parents told me I was welcome to attend the Sunday meeting anytime I felt ready to go, and they still had a lot of my belongings in my bedroom. I also have to acknowledge that she performed at 2 weddings after my parents asked her if she would be interested in doing so. Due to my sister's restriction of $300 per dress, my mom's desire for really expensive gowns ultimately resulted in the purchase of 2 gowns for around $600. Perhaps my jealousy stems from the fact that she is truly superior to me. I simply want to stop feeling this way, no longer causing harm to my family. I suppose I can give Reddit credit for the scathing remarks. I need to get over my sister's jealousy and a lot of other problems. I'm not sure where to begin. I'm starting to question if I'm really ready for marriage, but I doubt I would have noticed if the responses had been encouraging. Of course, it was somewhat difficult to provide an update on my family call. My family and I have gone through a really fascinating period. You Redditors are harsh but fair, so I wanted to share. I do my best this time because I do ramble, as some people have said. My Bill got me a therapist, and I started right away after my family took a few days off work to absorb everything. We have also participated in group sessions and a few with my sister, my mother, and my father. It has made it easier for me to recognize all the problems, and as a family, we are improving our communication so that no one will ever again feel neglected or undervalued. I want to get better even though I know I have a long way to go. My parents claim that all they want is for me to feel loved and to have the greatest life possible. In addition, I'm returning home after high school. I left home to follow in my sister's footsteps, but I think this is the wisest course of action. I thus gave it some thinking and decided to take modest steps when my parents offered me the choice, the decent ones. Although it may seem silly, my sister didn't speak to me for around 10 days, which is the longest she has ever gone without speaking to me. I knew I had caused her a great deal of pain, and it wounded me too. She gave me a list of several messages that others had sent about me throughout our session. They were all complimentary, complimenting my skills and all. She said that although we are all unique, we are all excellent in our own ways, and that the reason I seldom hear compliments on my greatness is because they aren't given to me directly. She also informed me that in order to avoid trouble and jokes, my parents usually don't tell her about things that happen that they know she could give me shit. They protect me. Therefore, perhaps I am the real golden kid. She has much aided me and is speaking with me once more, still feeling envious of her. Yes, but I'd like to turn that into respect. My ex, even though I am aware that I am accountable for my sentiments. My former partner did add fuel to the fire. No matter what, she was the first to notice it. In the end, we split up because my sister understood things that I didn't, or because of how much money everyone spent on stuff, etc. A long tale. I informed her that I might earn a master's degree or something similar, and that I was thinking about returning to live with my parents. She was upset about it and continued inquiring about the wedding, but I told her that I couldn't consider getting married just yet, and that perhaps we might take a vacation. Additionally, I informed her that she could either pay the rent on the house, or I would give her 3 months to find a place to reside. It belongs to my parents. She was furious and told me that since I was ending our relationship, suddenly I had to marry her, or at least provide her free housing and pay for food and utilities. She didn't use a single dime throughout our time together, so I told her that was why I was giving her 3 months and allowing her to utilize her paycheck. Then things became strange and unpleasant. She threatened to sue me for mental anguish, said she was phoning her family, and refused to leave the house. Yes, I panicked. She stated the same thing when I tried to end our relationship in the past, but she persuaded me that she was the only person who truly loved me. However, when I phoned my family this time, they advised me to call one of my sister's friends and lock myself out of the house. She may file a lawsuit, he informed her. She is free to do whatever. He wanted her gone as soon as possible and said that she is not receiving anything and that my offer of 3 months was off. He recorded the condition of everything and threatened to sue her if anything was harmed. As it turns out, my sister warned him that this would happen, so he received information from her, was ready, and did it as a favor to her because they are friends from kindergarten. Her father warned me that I would burn in hell, and a few of my relatives remained with me until she left a few days later. Although I no longer have any relationship with her and haven't visited the workplace, she is still employed by the firm and will continue to do so as long as she performs. Although my family does engage in nepotism and employs one another, no one would fire her because she always arrives on time and performs an adequate job. Though not with me by her side, I hope she finds love once more. I live at home, am unmarried, and will probably lose my job within the next month. My parents advise me to prioritize my mental health and well-being. One of my pillars of support throughout this time has been my Bill, who genuinely cares for my entire family, and we are growing close as friends. My grandmother informed me that no one liked my ex and that she was glad we were no longer together. She claims that when she became angry, they all began to dislike her. For our first Christmas, they didn't buy her any pricey presents. I was also informed by my buddies that they didn't like her. As it happens, everyone wanted it to stop, and some people made fun of it throughout the years. However, they dealt with her because they believed she made me happy and benefited me. I need to become healthier, but I also wish to have greater luck and love. I feel more optimistic, yet I could accept the option to start over overseas. Indeed, I'm looking for areas of agreement with my sister. She is genuinely wonderful, and my admiration for her grows as I learn more about her shortcomings and strange habits, like her fascination with lemon juice. Speaking my truth ultimately helped me get what I needed. I also acknowledge my privilege today, even if I used to be a big Aja. A bit less R, but still not flawless. The third update. Hi, my ruthless yet only buddies. I meant to send you my last update earlier, but I went into a tailspin after a Redditor informed me about a really nasty post that made fun of me. I want to provide you an update since I am fortunate to feel better. Mostly to close off this phase of my life, but also because I've been showered with love, support, and compassion, I feel like it's the proper thing to do. I'll do my best to be straight as well. We haven't spoken much since I left the firm, but when I told my ex that I wouldn't be returning and that we would be selling it, she was unhappy. My dad and a buddy came to an agreement wherein any employee who wished to stay would have the opportunity to do so for at least 3 years, retain their position, and avoid being demoted. I told her that, but she felt that others didn't like her and that it was unjust that they already treated her differently. I told her I hadn't said anything, but I knew people weren't into her before, so I'm not surprised that they aren't putting up with her now that she has no employer. We did discuss my future in great detail, and it's clear that she wasn't with me for the proper reasons. My sister. She asked to read my blogs after I informed her about them. I gave her my username after giving it some thought, and she said she wanted to look it up and we could discuss it later. She was furious. Though some were really appreciative, many were cruel to me. I needed somebody to call me out, so I did. She taunted me about it and said that her lemon juice thing wasn't all that strange, and learning more about her. Additionally, I have been informed that they had lost 2 infants, but I was not informed since I didn't appear to be engaged in their lives, and she was worried that I wouldn't handle it well. And I was broken by it. It helped me realize that my sister is a real person and not a phantom, and I am deeply embarrassed of her for having gone through things I cannot even comprehend. I was being conceited and self-centered, therefore I wasn't there for her. She considered how I may feel despite the agony. For my sister does in fact adore me. Despite her assurances that she loves me without conditions, she is now beginning to show interest in me once more. My folks are villains. My Bill is a wonderful man. I sincerely want I become like him someday. In my own words, he is patient and full of love, and I am seeing more and more reasons why he deserves to be with my sister. I advised him not to think of me as a barrier during our lengthy discussion about their starting a family. He was really touched when he told me that they were thinking of not trying at all until I recovered. But I know deep down that I couldn't forgive myself if I stopped them from becoming parents. My parents informed me that they would want to spend some time in Germany now that I am changing my life, and the only reason they didn't do so previously was because they wanted to be near me. As it happens, they had always desired to be near me. Simply put, I was too dim to see myself. I'm relocating to Germany. I chose to simply give it a go. Bill and my sister are assisting me with all of the paperwork. I am thrilled that I will be traveling on an applicant permit. My parents are assisting me with translating my paperwork and taking all necessary steps to ensure their legality. My family will help me with my master's degree application. I got my bill from the sale of the company and a small job. I will be moving at the end of the year, so I am simply finishing up. Until I locate my own department, my sister, who has her own, will host me. I'm now enrolled in German lessons, and my bill aids with my practice. I know that because of it. My ex is definitely not for me because she just asked if she could come and if my parents would be able to support her because she doesn't have a wedding anymore when I informed her I was relocating to Germany. She has been sharing posts about my sister and how her scams have ruined her life. However, my sister stopped mentioning her when her friend warned her that we would sue her. And suddenly, my sister's name is missing from all of the passive-aggressive posts. I'm sorry, but my sister merely asked whether I would ever get back together with my ex. When I responded that I wouldn't, she informed me that she didn't give a damn about what my ex had done. I'm putting a lot of effort into improving my mental health. I am aware that it can take months or even years until I am in a position where I am not jealous, but I also know that this is for the best. Even though a buddy mentioned it, I haven't begun dating again since I want to be a worthy guy and I'm moving, so I don't see the purpose. My therapist is fantastic, and because our sessions are conducted virtually, there shouldn't be any issues. I occasionally look back on some of my recollections and find that despite my inability to perceive it, people did like, love, and care for me. Because I didn't really know my sister and was preoccupied with myself, I was unable to see her outstanding qualities. I now understand that I am unique in my own way, or at least that's what she keeps telling me. I should also quit evaluating myself against her or anybody else. I never truly understood how much my parents cared for me or thought about me. I will never take my family for granted, though, because I now know they love me despite the fact that neither we nor I am flawless. I hope for a brighter future, a closer bond with my family, and if I'm fortunate, a new nephew or niece. I appreciate all you've told me and for giving me the push I needed to turn my life around. I am really appreciative that I stopped by this site update to say hello to the few people who were inquiring for an update. After reading all of my postings recently, I am both proud and embarrassed of them. I felt ashamed of myself for being such a fool and for being pleased with my success thus far. Although there has been some change, it is all for the better for us. These days, my parents travel to Germany for brief or seasonal periods. We have taken up little pastimes like painting and drinking wine together, and we continue to learn more about one another. It's not yet certain if my parents will eventually move here. They went on a lavish vacation for their second honeymoon, but they don't appear to care much about it. The anniversary celebration is still delayed. My invoice. He is now my brother. His brother and I became buddies, and they introduced me to their pool and football teams. Eventually, I met other acquaintances, but I continued to spend a lot of time with them. My sister claims to like me once more, which is the greatest feeling in the world, to be honest. They will soon begin to try again, and I am just happy for them. I really tell her when I'm feeling envious sometimes, and she walks me through the process to find out where it originated from. We have had disagreements since we are both human, but they haven't been significant or long-lasting, and I think she feels more at ease with me now. My former partner. I don't see her very often. She was so nasty that I just blocked her everywhere, even though we were meant to be friends. I just know that she is sharing her relationship with someone else with everyone. She is really happy that she chose not to wed me. This is the same as me. I was accepted into the desired program. I spent some time with my sister and Bill after arriving at the end of 2021. Although there were many arguments against staying in the same city, I made the decision to do so. I chose to try my hand at student life after moving out, but I still visit my sister and my parents whenever they're here at least twice a week. I continue to attend treatment, develop new skills, and ride my bike everywhere. Since coming here, I've had a few liaisons, but I still don't feel prepared for a committed commitment. I need to be able to locate a spouse without being coerced, yet it's frightening. My life seems to be improving since I made a repulsive comment a year ago. Many thanks to all of you. The 5th update. My partner was shocked by what transpired when I showed her this lately. I adore my life today and am really happy. I'll soon be an uncle. I'm almost finished with my new degree and I get along well with my family. This is for the handful who request updates who are most likely the only ones who will read it. Nothing dramatic or negative to report. I'm now also completely enamored with lemon juice. I'm grateful to Reddit for making my life better and for kicking my ass. Story 3. I'm an 18-year-old man who recently graduated and will begin community college in August. Barely began working full-time hours, but as soon as I started taking classes prior to turning 18, that all changed to part-time once more. My parents began discussing more than a month ago that if I want to stay there, I will be responsible for half the bills and the rent. The issue wasn't that. The problem was that on top of half the bills they expected me to pay, they wanted me to pay $300 a month for the small room I shared with my younger brother. The majority of apartments in our city fall into that range, but that includes sharing space with other people and the cost of the entire apartment rather than just one bedroom. That would be the primary use of the majority of my paycheck. Next, as I previously stated to my parents, I have no issue contributing to the bills and covering my room expenses. They claimed that if they reduced the rent, that was the amount they had agreed upon. I would therefore have to pay that if I wanted to remain there. I replied, okay, and spoke with a friend. I was already aware that he lived alone and had spent the previous 3 months searching for a new roommate. I ended up accompanying him, and he included me in the lease, along with my own room and bathroom, the entire rent amount, and my share of the expenses. It is significantly less than the rent alone that I was supposed to pay my parents. The problem is that they are furious with me for going. When I moved out, my mother disregarded me. My father kept saying how disappointed he is in me. I have decided to leave because they were counting on me to assist them with the house's bills and mortgage payments. Rather, according to my dad, I'm going to leave them in a difficult situation. He finds it unbelievable that I chose self-interest over supporting my family. I'm asking if I'm the idiot for that reason. They were expecting me to pay an extremely high amount. I would literally spend my entire paycheck on that. Additionally, I abandoned them to struggle when they needed my assistance. Thus, I'm not sure. Am I the fool? Not the fool. It is ridiculous that a parent would charge a son who is hardly legally an adult $300 for a single room. Even in the best of situations, that would be a ripoff. They had hoped to rely on me to assist them with the house's mortgage payments for a while. I think they should get a second job and cut back on avocado toast because of the bills. Holy smokes. The right. No, it's not the fool. Parents are attempting to convince Opie to pay for a significant portion of their expenses. Were they expecting to rely on an 18-year-old to pay their mortgage at that point? Perhaps it's time for them to sell the house and buy something more affordable and smaller. What is the size of the house? In addition to the household expenses for a shared room that came to $1,300. Most likely, that is more than half of their mortgage. Opie may also be expected to behave like a child and adhere to house rules. Asking a young adult child for rent is not meant to shift household responsibilities onto them. Rather, it is meant to assist with the transition to the real world. I hope a competitor offered you a better deal. Good luck, parents. In addition, it is dishonorable of them to demand more than $300 per month for a shared room. Instead of you, they wanted to keep your money. Their true selves were exposed. When they needed my assistance, I abandoned them to struggle. Poor financial decisions are not financed by the 18-year-old child of the parents. Instead of ripping you off, they made their bed, let them fly in it, and even essentially stated that was what we had agreed upon. Leave if you don't like it. That was a bluff you called. What's the point of paying more for less space? Your parents should be pleased with your successful transition into adulthood as a newly independent adult. I'm not attempting to exploit you or bring you down. I am a 34-year-old woman who married my 41-year-old husband 6 years ago. Annie is my adolescent daughter from a previous relationship. Sean, my husband's 19-year-old son from his previous marriage. My spouse and I purchased a 4-bedroom home after we were married. We took the master bedroom, leaving 3 bedrooms for the kids to choose from, a large bedroom and 2 smaller ones that were roughly the same size. We explained to the children that they could either deal with the bedrooms in one of 2 ways. Either they could each take a small bedroom, or the large bedroom could be used as a shared hangout space. The others could claim both of the smaller bedrooms while one could take the larger one. As a young adolescent, Sean desired to have the spacious bedroom to himself. Anthony made the decision that she would take the smaller ones and he would take the bigger one. Given her shy nature and my suspicion of Sean, I did repeatedly ask her if she was certain this was what she wanted. In essence, it informed her before asking, but she appeared satisfied enough with it, and ultimately it didn't really matter who received what. That's the way it was. Annie has a bedroom hangout area in one of her rooms and a closet makeup area in the other. She is pleased with the arrangement and adores it. However, Sean, who recently graduated from high school, wants to switch bedrooms with Arnie in order to use one of the smaller rooms for streaming and gaming. Given that Annie creates makeup and fashion design videos in her studio, as she refers to it, I assume he got the idea from her. He said no when he asked Annie. I was asked. Ask Annie, I said. He claimed that although he tried, she was being irrational. I informed him that they had made this decision and that I would not press her to change at this time. He then involved my husband in it, accusing me of favoring Annie because she is my own child and behaving worse toward Sean because he is not, even though I have known him for half of his life and have raised him throughout our marriage. Therefore, even though it is true, it hurts a little. My husband believes that Sean should have the additional space because he is an adult, but really, it's just separated. It's not even extra space. And he did it the way he liked. I simply believe that switching would be extremely unfair to me. I think Annie and Sean have a pretty good relationship, but ever since this issue has arisen, Sean has been acting more and more passive-aggressively toward us. Am I the only one who doesn't want to switch? Just to be clear, Annie is not interested in switching at all, and Sean wants to give only the large room and keep the 2 smaller rooms for himself. Not the fool. Your stepson entered the large room quite nicely. Now that your daughter made it cool, he's envious. Sean can no longer complain and get what he wants. As an adult, he doesn't deserve any more, especially when he acts like a whiny child. A little avaricious. Not Theodore Opie, but if you don't discuss retreating with your husband, you will be. Given that his father supported him, I assume Sean's greed and bullying tendencies are inherited from his father. Your husband shouldn't be supporting your stepson's behavior, and your daughter shouldn't be punished by having to change rooms in order to appease her stepbrother. If not, your daughter's bullying will only worsen. The fact that an adult man acts passive-aggressively toward a young girl because he didn't get his way is also concerning. He needs to be educated immediately if this is any indication of his treatment of women. She said no after he made his decision a few years ago. He must come to terms with that without acting manipulatively. Not the fool. You ensured that everyone was satisfied when the agreement was sent years ago. Your daughter shouldn't be forced to switch if she doesn't want to. That being said, your husband is acting like a complete moron by attempting to make your daughter alter the arrangement that was established years ago just because his son wants to move in with his stepson. Your husband should tell him to stop acting like such a jerk. In addition, he is 19. Making the family home more comfortable is not the aim. He can set up a studio, hang curtains, and begin daydreaming about how great his first apartment will be once he moves out. Yes, a false wall, a curtain, whatever. One will grow into 2. What's the point of him fussing over actually changing rooms compared to moving all that equipment and then organizing everything that would be a lot simpler? He doesn't sound particularly imaginative, and it sounds like he only wants the framework that his sister has already established. He has a straightforward issue with several straightforward fixes. He must mature and come to his own senses. Rather than requesting her space, he ought to simply ask his sister for assistance. Since we were chosen to represent the college, I'm a college student working on a project with 3 other girls. We created a website in advance of our showcase, and the plan was to post a team photo. When we were talking about the photo shoot the other day, the girls essentially told me that I would need to straighten my hair and dye for the picture. To put things in perspective, the girls are all white, and I'm multiracial. I have a lot of thick curly hair, but they're blonde. It runs down my back, and I'm not very big. It's most likely the first thing people notice about it. In essence, they asked me to straighten and dye my hair blonde. They contend that uniformity is preferable and that our work and abilities, not appearances, are the focus of this project. So you can accuse me of being attention-seeking right away. Existing equals, I suppose, are difficult to work with and attention-seeking. It was utterly absurd. And I told them that I couldn't possibly do all of that for a picture. Even though there was some conflict between us, this incident really escalated it. Admittedly, I was initially deeply hurt. I didn't know why they made this choice, but then I recalled an interview with an interviewer, and I have to admit that he behaved impolitely by complimenting my hair at the beginning of the conversation and paying too much attention to me. But I don't see why I should be punished for this, and none of that is my fault. That decision, in my opinion, is far too harsh and unjust. I'm the fool, not the fool. What they're asking you to do is not only inappropriate and unfair, but it's also racist. They want you to follow the standards of white beauty. It's like the usual unprofessional microaggression of natural hair on steroids. Refuse to give in. Seek support from a counselor, faculty advisor, or other authority figure. It pains me to see you under pressure to do this. It's unbelievable that they had the audacity to ask, not even bother to ask. Demand that your attractive girls make them feel obviously threatened. For the photo, I would make those girls extra bouncy and large. To be honest, I believe they should receive severe criticism for that. Dropped out of the class like, "Hi there." Well, this adorable little piece of hypocrisy is my favorite. This project is about our works and skills, not looks. They basically asked me to dye my hair blonde, as well as straighten straightener. This isn't about looks, so change the way you look. I just can't imagine what's happening in their heads that made this sound reasonable to them. And they've been chosen to represent the school. Wow. I thought it would be how your hair was purple and green, and they wanted you to dye it back to a natural hair color. That would have been bad enough. This is unbelievable. Report them now, says my middle-aged. I don't have time for that garbage self. The old professor, course advisor, head of department student support services, anyone that request or demand for dyeing and straightening your hair is crazy. Believe me, your college will step in to prevent this from making national and international headlines in this era of social media. The brats are already acting hatefully, but they will still hate you. My adolescent daughter's mother tutors from our home. She informed every parent that I watch their children that they have been terribly tardy in picking them up. 6 pupils in the same grade attend my mom's classes, which are held from 9:30 to 12:30 and from 1 to 4 on a few days of the week. Little children typically attend morning classes, while all children attend afternoon classes. A parent dropped off the child today at 9, so I had to keep my mom occupied while she prepared for class and cleaned her classroom. At 9:10, a different parent then drops off their daughter. I don't think my mother was paying attention when I told her that if the parents dropped their children off too early or too late to pick them up, I would charge them for babysitting. Since I've occasionally watched their children, I have the contact information for every parent in the morning class. I put them all in a group chat and wished them a good morning. Parents are dropping their children off early or picking them up late these days, so I have to stop whatever I'm doing to keep them entertained. Parents will be charged $20 per hour for babysitting if they drop their child off more than 10 minutes early or arrive more than 10 minutes late to pick them up. Have a good day, and thanks again. The parents who dropped their children off early today sent my mom screenshots and said this was unreasonable because they already pay so much for these classes, but the majority of the parents said something like, "Thank you for letting me know. I'm asking for too much," according to my mom, who is upset with me for telling the parents that. Therefore, I wanted to know if I was the fool or someone else. Your mother simply assumed that you would take care of the early lady's children as a volunteer. If she refuses to work out a babysitting agreement with you to watch her students, after that you are presented with 2 quotes at any rate you desire. If she continues, leave her to handle the children and vanish before the next class. Assume you have a client list and operate a business. Then one day your coworker, your daughter, becomes agitated over something. Instead of discussing it with you, find a solution and address the problem. Instead, she starts enforcing new rules and payment requirements while secretly messaging all of your clients. I doubt you would be overly happy. Not the fool. Is this line being missed by everyone? I don't think my mom was paying attention when I told her that if the parents dropped the kids off too early or were too late to pick them up, they would be charged for babysitting. She did bring it up to her mother, who dismissed her. Furthermore, it's comparing apples and coconuts for everyone to think that this is a customer service position. Retail jobs pay you while you're working, even if the customers are rude to you. The problem here is that Opie isn't getting paid. The fool is you. For the time being, you ought to have billed your mother directly. Then as the owner of the company, your mother has the option to pass that cost on to her customers. You would clock out later, and those hours would be reflected on your paycheck, which is paid by the school or daycare where you worked if you had to stay late because a parent was late. Telling the late parent to give you $20 out of their wallet for being late is the same as what you did. You are the fool for bringing up the clients in a disagreement that should have been between you and your mother. Jack, my 22-year-old girlfriend of 4 years, has a best friend named Jimmy. Since kindergarten, they have been friends. Tomorrow is Jimmy's wedding, since it's Wednesday and after midnight, literally today. This has been known to us for a year. Jack has inquired about the wedding date at least 6 times. He needed to buy clothes, so I reminded him. For some reason, he is not part of the wedding party. Reserve a hotel room, take a break from work, etc. Additionally, I had been reminding him on occasion to purchase a gift from Jimmy's wedding registry. Jack called me a nag the last time I suggested that he look at the registry. He informed me that he would complete tasks on his own schedule and that I should stop behaving like his mother. I respond, well, that was more than a month ago. Never again have I spoken. Additionally, he still hasn't gotten the wedding attire, and despite my advice, he didn't ask for the day off. Now all he has to do is crawl out of work and run the risk of getting promoted. Jack began to freak out on me before I went to bed, telling me that Jimmy would despise him because aside from a few stupid little items, everything on the wedding registry had been bought. He will, however, be hoping for something better than the leftovers because he is his best friend. In addition to his unannounced absence from work, he is now upset that he must find time to go to the mall tomorrow before we depart and withdraw money for a cash gift before 10:00 a.m. so that we can arrive at the location. Thank goodness I booked the hotel. When Jack asked me why I hadn't reminded him of these things the previous week, I replied that it was because he had called me a nag. I suppose I'm being petty now. Am I the fool respecting someone's boundary when they ask you to let them do something on their own, which isn't even what happened, isn't petty at all? It's him who is being vindictive and accusing you of doing nothing about his own obligations. Instead of politely asking you to give him more freedom, he called you a nag. Not the fool. The fool is your boyfriend. I also believe I understand why he isn't attending the wedding. LOL. Furthermore, I don't believe there is any mystery surrounding your boyfriend's absence from the wedding party. He isn't because he is untrustworthy and would cause more trouble for the groom than good. We all knew what was going to happen, so I was grinning the entire time I was reading. You are not the idiot, of course. He needs to accept responsibility and start behaving like an adult because he is solely to blame. When he asked, I would have responded, "I'm not your mom," and turned to leave. But that's only my small petty side. Here, everyone is the fool. I assume he has a phone with him. Calendar features with alarms and reminders are even available on dumb phones. Although he is in charge of creating his own reminders, I believe he suffers from executive dysfunction and time blindness due to ADHD. He isn't a total moron, and you have been partners for 4 years, intentionally causing you pain in order to gain control by disparaging you. Medication and someone who can help him understand the tools might be helpful. Not the fool, all right. It's his closest pal. You're not a secretary either. You were considerate enough to try to get him ready for it beforehand. He also advised you to stop behaving like a mother. He then dared to put it on you after doing nothing until the day before the wedding. Totally unjust. You're not petty. He is the careless one.